Hey everyone, it's Synth Designer back again with another video. Today we're going to talk about how I process my pianos and just a few tricks on how to make your piano sound a little bit better, a little bit more full, let's say, and how to use them in kind of electronic dance music. If you're new here, go check out synthdesigner.com. You'll find lots of free presets and lots of other cool stuff there. Think about joining my Patreon page where I give away lots of presets for Serum each month for only a couple bucks. But let's get right into this video. So I'm going to open up Keyzone Classic here. Keyzone is a free plugin. I really like it. I think it has a decent piano sound. Now, if you have a better paid for piano sound, that's great. But I think Keyzone is a nice alternative to a lot of free basic pianos you'll find with your DAW. Now, as we open this, I'm going to turn off all the processing I have on this piano, and we're going to start from the beginning. I'm going to show you how I get to the sound that you heard in the intro. So first of all, I'm going to locate my main piano. I'm going to turn off all this processing and then the bus channel as well. And then I'm going to also take off the piano reverb and delay. So now we just have the basic piano sound. As you can hear, it's a nice solid piano sound. And I have a couple patterns here. So let's play pattern 1 to start. Just this nice kind of like bouncy kind of start to the song. Then I have this little kind of up-tempo aspect to it that comes into play in both the pre-chorus and the chorus. And that's a great kind of just dancey, bouncy style of piano here, right? So let's just get into the processing and how we kind of get to that full sound. There's a few things that we need to think about here. First is the actual chord voicing. So the chord voicing is, as you can see, they're pretty simple chords here. As you can see, this is a D minor here. So the chord is in D, the song is in D minor, but as you can see, I have layered it here with multiple octaves. By doing that, that gives you a full sound. Now, you don't have to do this in every instance, but when you have your main piano, and that's something to remember is that we'll be layering, your main piano should have a lot of fullness to it because that's going to be kind of your main sound, and we're going to build on all of those. Then we have pattern 14 here, which is the piano, what I call the piano support. It's actually in Serum, and this is a preset that I created, and it really is a nice complement. And if you want to see how to create this, go check out my video. It's called essentially something like this preset pairs perfectly with a piano, and I really find it really does go well together. Let's just play it on its own first. So as you'll notice, it's kind of got that bounciness too, like a piano, but it's got a little bit more of a synth sound. And the two of them really pair nicely. The other thing is it has that little bit of white noise, which also gives it a little bit more kind of transience. If we didn't have the white noise, it just gives it that little extra bit at the end. So let's just play those two together now. As you can hear, it really comes into play and gives it a nice little bit of a layer there. Next, we have what I call piano layer 2. So that's pattern 16. And this is another Serum preset here. This is not my preset, but this one's called Dance Piano. And this is really meant to be kind of on the higher end. Let's just listen to this one on its own. As you can hear, it really has that dance piano feel to it. Credit to the person who created this one. I really like this one because it adds kind of that upper kind of sound. What I did here was I used parametric EQ. I cut out a lot of the lows here. Now I'm just left with the highs. I have the body of the main piano, so I don't need to double that. Otherwise, you're going to get into muddiness. So you want a piano sound to layer with your main piano. And I often do that by filtering out some of those lows. And then the other thing I do, as you can see in pattern 16, is I have it only on this high area here. So I took out all those lower notes and I'm only using the basic chords in this higher register, higher octave. Now let's hear our three sounds together now. Now keep in mind, these are already volume EQ'd a little bit, but the idea is that we're getting a little bit of layer each time, right? The last little bit of layer here is what I call the saw layer. Now this is pattern 18. And when you look at pattern 18 here, it's very basic saws. One with a lot of width to it and a lot of voicing, the other one straight up the middle. Let's just listen to it on its own. Very basic, right? But what this does is very important to the sound. It adds transients. Again, I have white noise here to add that sound. As you can see, I have the envelope opening and closing this, so it kind of gives it that bounce, just that immediate transients coming through. And it's also opened up the cutoff. So it's giving us that nice bounce, and it's really in the background. You don't hear it very much, and that's kind of the point of this layer. This layer is not really meant to be heard so much as giving more transient character to the sound. So let's hear these four together now. Okay, we have a great foundation here. So what do we have here? A main piano, that's the full body, a supporting kind of layer that you can come up with either on your own. Find some sort of synth that complements it, that doesn't take away, that adds a little bit of bounce and some of that higher end frequencies. Then we have another piano layer that's up an octave, giving us that upper range that we want. And lastly, the saw layer. The saw layer gives us that transience and that kind of pop that will really help the entire thing cut through the mix. So the next part is the processing, essentially. We've got our basic layers here. Now we have to process everything. So let's start with the main piano. I'm going to turn all this processing back on, and we're going to work our way through it. So let's start with the main piano here. The main piano only has very basic EQ here. I boosted this higher end, this kind of mid upper higher, and then I took out some of the really highs while also taking out some of the lows. You don't need all these lows because you're going to have a bass anyway. I just found that up here really needed a little bit of more of that character, so I boosted it. Next, the piano support. I did a few things here that should be noted. I have, again, this parametric EQ cutting out all the lows. Then I found this notch here that I really didn't like, so I cut it out. Then I also boosted the sides and I took down the mids. That main piano is really going to take those mids to where you want them, while I wanted just the sides to be supported here. You don't want too much side information from the main piano because that's what the layers are going to be for. Lastly, I also added this kind of multi-band compressor here just because I felt like it needed a little less information in this area. The next layer here is that piano layer. So again, this is that upper layer that we talked about. So I took down a lot of the lows because we don't need any of them. That is supported by the main piano. And I did the same thing with the multi-band compression here. Lastly, this saw layer here is a very basic sound. I boosted the very high frequency because that's where you're going to get that transience, and I took out the lows. Next thing I did, which is really important, I took them all and put them all on one main bus. Now the main bus here has a lot of processing, and the best thing about having them all in one bus is that they're going to glue together through processing. So let's take a look at the parametric EQ. I found that there's a few notches here that needed to be taken out, a little bit of boosting here. Again, taking out the lows to make sure we leave space for the bass, and then taking out some of those very, very highs that we just don't need. Next thing I did was run a compressor. So I'm gonna show you how much compression I have on here. By compressing them all at once, we're going to have them all glued together a lot better. I actually used the pumping style because this is kind of an EDM sound. I wanted more pumping, and I think it sounds great. Very little compression here. As you'll notice as well, these saw layers that come into play into the main chorus are also part of this kind of piano section here. So there's a ton of compression going on later on, and we don't need tons of compression when we're in the pre-chorus, just because it sounds good already, I think. Next thing I did here, OTT, a great compressor and just gives tons of character to the sound. Let's just listen to all these sounds together with and without OTT. To me, it has a lot of sharpness to it. It just kind of gives it a little bit of edge to it, I would say. And that's what OTT really does well. The depth here is the most important knob out of the entire thing. I only have it at 18%. You could really crank this thing, get a ton of higher end. But I think this does a great job. Then I have the Ozone Imager here. This is another free plugin, and I'm actually boosting a lot of the width here. If I turn this off, you could hear it's giving just a little bit more of that width and space to it. Over here I have Kickstart 2, which only comes into play as the chorus comes in. So we don't need to talk about that. That's really more for that pumping effect. Another parametric EQ, that's for a kind of filter sweep that I have later on. And I have Fruity Limiter here, and that's used for a side chain for another aspect of the song, which is not important. But these two send knobs are important here. They go to the verb and the delay. Now the verb is Valhalla Supermassive. Now all of a sudden we have a lot bigger sound, don't we? As you can see, they're both 100% on the mix here, but I blended it in, and that's the nice part by doing that. And then the delay is just basic fruity delay, and I have that blended in as well. So now put all together, we just heard it. Here's the full sound. Let's play it from here and move into the chorus. So there you have it. That is how I process and layer my pianos. This is great for EDM, but it's also a great tip for other types of music as well. Oftentimes you'll find that your pianos don't necessarily have that kind of punch that a lot of modern music has, and that's because they do a lot of layering just like this. They have the main piano, they have their layers, they have their transients, and then the most important thing is they group them all together to glue them together as a cohesive whole. So I hope you learned something in this video. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see similar videos or any type of videos at all. And I'll see you guys next time.